Emily, you don't know me, and after the next sentence, you probably won't want to. I'm writing to you from prison. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 31. The last 4 years, I've lived in a place where the only people who open doors for you are the ones who lock them behind you. You probably have 2 questions right now. First, what did I do? Second, how the hell does a guy in prison have your address? I'm not answering the first one yet. Not because I'm trying to trick you. It's just that if that's all you know about me, nothing else will matter. The second answer is way dumber. 3 weeks ago, someone brought a box of old books and magazines to our library. I don't know who. Stuff just appears here. In one magazine, I found a little card. Emily Carter, and your address. You probably used it as a bookmark once and forgot it. I was going to leave it there. Then I put it in my pocket. Then I carried it around for 2 weeks. Don't worry, I know how creepy that sounds. Yesterday, I decided to throw it away. Today, I'm writing you this letter. Not the best proof of strong character. I don't want anything from you, Emily. Not money, not packages, not for you to come here and save a stranger from the consequences of his own decisions. I just felt like writing to someone who knows nothing about me. That's rare here. Here, everyone knows your last name, your number, your sentence, and what you did before they even know how you take your coffee. And you don't know a thing. And somehow, that's exactly why it was easier to write to you. This morning, I stood by the window, if you can call it that. It's narrow, high up from the floor, and through it you can see a piece of sky and the top of a tree beyond the wall. The leaves are already yellow. I looked at it and suddenly realized something stupid. I haven't seen a whole tree in 4 years, just the top. I guess you get used to everything, even seeing the world in pieces. I was going to end it there, but I thought, since I've already barged into your day without permission, I should leave you with something more than a story about a prisoner who found your address in an old magazine. So here's the deal. You don't have to answer at all. You can throw this letter away. You can show it to a friend and decide together that Daniel Mercer is an idiot. That's not the worst conclusion people have come to about me, by the way. But if for some reason you do decide to write back, don't ask me what I'm here for yet. Ask me something else, and I'll ask you for only one thing. Tell me what you see from your window. Not the city, not the address, not the street name. Just what you see from your window when you walk up to it in the morning. I really want to remember what it's like to see a world that ends with a wall. If you don't write back, I'll destroy the card with your address, I promise. And if you do, well, I guess I'll have to find another bookmark.
Daniel, I was going to throw your letter away. Twice. The first time, right after I read it. The second, about a week later, when I realized I still had it in my kitchen table drawer. 3 months have passed. I don't know if you even remember who you wrote to. Maybe you've written 10 more letters like this to 10 other women by now. If so, I have to admit, that's a pretty weird way to meet people. But I'm writing back anyway, and I'll tell you right now, I don't know why. At first, your letter scared me. Not the fact that you're in prison, although that didn't help either. What scared me was a stranger knew my name and knew where to send an envelope. I even thought about going to the police. Then I imagined that conversation. What did he write? He asked me to tell him what I see from my window. I think the police would have survived that shock. I remember your card. It really was mine. About a year ago, I gave away a box of old books, magazines, and junk I'd been moving from place to place for years. Apparently, I gave away my address along with it. So I guess I can only blame myself for that. But there was another reason I didn't respond. Your first question, the one you decided not to answer. I caught myself trying to guess a few times. Theft? Robbery? A fight? And then I thought of worse things. And every time after that, I told myself a normal person would just throw the letter away and forget it. Maybe I'm not very normal. Or maybe you just asked the right question. What do I see from my window? Right now, snow. It snowed almost all night. Across from my house, there's an old maple tree. Last night, one of its branches broke under the weight of the snow, and now it's lying right by the road. A little further, Mrs. Bennet's house. She goes out every morning at 7 to feed 2 stray cats and insists she hates cats. Today she came out in her bathrobe and winter boots. I don't think you asked for that much detail, but you brought this on yourself. Also, from my window, I can see the road. If you watch long enough, someone drives by every few minutes. I never used to think that being able to just get in a car and go anywhere was anything special. After your letter, I thought about it, and I didn't really like that. You made me notice things I hadn't noticed before. So consider this a little revenge. Now it's my turn to ask you a question. No, not that one. You can keep your secret for now. You wrote that you haven't seen a whole tree in 4 years. So tell me this. If tomorrow morning someone opened the door and said you had 1 hour to go anywhere, but only on foot, where would you go? You have 1 hour, and don't try to come up with a pretty answer. I waited 3 months. I can wait a few more days. You don't have to destroy the card. Looks like you don't need a new bookmark just yet.
Emily. 7 days. That's how long I made myself not write back. I wanted to give the impression that I have an incredibly busy life here, and your letter was far from the most interesting thing to happen in the last 3 months. I lasted 7 days. You asked where I'd go if they gave me 1 hour. I thought the answer would be simple. Home. But then I realized I don't know where that is. The house I grew up in was sold before I was locked up. My mother died 2 years ago. I haven't seen my father since I was 19, so going home isn't an option. Then I thought about the ocean. Before I ended up here, I saw it only twice. First time I was 9. I barely remember anything except the water was cold and my father was yelling at me not to go too far. Second time I was 26. I remember that day a lot more, and I wish I remembered less. So the ocean is out too. You know where I'd go? A regular grocery store. Don't laugh. I'd walk in without a list and without a reason. Grab a cart, walk down the aisles, maybe spend 10 minutes just picking apples, even though I don't care which apples I eat. Then I'd leave the cart somewhere in the middle of the store and walk out without buying anything, just because I could. Funny thing, Freedom. When you have it, it seems like it's all about big things, roads, travel, other cities. When you don't, you start missing the ability to change your mind about buying apples. Now about your letter. Yes, I remembered who I wrote to. And no, I didn't write to 10 other women. You were the only one. I don't know if that makes it better or way worse. I waited about a month, then I figured there wouldn't be an answer. Another month passed, and I stopped checking the mail. That's a lie. I checked. I just tried to do it without anyone noticing. Then last week, a guard put an envelope in front of me and said, "Mercer, looks like someone out there actually remembers you exist." I almost told him he was wrong, because you couldn't have remembered me. You didn't know me. But now you know a little more. You know I don't like apples nearly as much as a person willing to spend 10 minutes of freedom on them should. I know some things about you, too. You have an old maple tree, a lying neighbor who secretly loves cats, a road outside your window, and a weird sense of humor that made you make a man in prison imagine walking through a grocery store. Not a bad start. But you wrote one other thing. You tried to guess why I'm here. Theft, robbery, a fight, and then worse things. You have the right to ask, and I'll tell you, just not today. You can call it cowardice. Maybe it is. Right now, you know me as Daniel, who wants to see a whole tree and waste an hour of freedom on stupid stuff. Once I tell you why I'm here, all of that might disappear, and only one word will be left. I'm not ready to find out if that's what happens. My turn now. You told me what you see from your window. Tell me something you can't see from it. Not your job, not your age, not your favorite color. Tell me one thing about yourself that none of the people walking past your window every day know. I'll go first. Sometimes at night, when everything goes quiet here, I close my eyes and try to remember my mother's voice. I remember her face, her hands, even the smell of her old coat. But her voice, I'm starting to forget it, and that scares me more than I'm willing to admit to anyone here. Now you. Mrs. Bennet doesn't hate cats. Tell her a man who's never seen her and hundreds of miles away has exposed her.
Daniel, you asked me to tell you one thing about myself that people walking past my window don't know. I came up with 7, then I crossed out 6. I've been sitting with the last one for about 20 minutes. I'm not sure I want to tell you. So first, something more important. I told Mrs. Bennet that a man in prison hundreds of miles away had exposed her secret love for cats. That was a mistake. Now she wants to know who you are. I said, a friend. She asked from where. I said, from far away. Technically, I didn't lie. But now Mrs. Bennet looks at me like I'm either secretly engaged or working for Soviet intelligence. Thanks, Daniel. Now about your grocery store. I laughed. Sorry, not at you. I just expected ocean, forest, some endless road, something a man in prison is supposed to write in a beautiful letter. And you chose apples. Yesterday after work, I went to the store on purpose, stood by the apple bin and thought about you. That's a very weird sentence, especially considering I've never seen you. I picked one up, put it back, picked up another. Then I realized I was doing exactly what you wrote about and felt like a complete idiot. So congratulations, you're in prison and you still managed to influence how a stranger buys groceries. Now, my promised answer. There's one thing people outside my window really don't know. I'm scared of phone calls after 10 at night. Not the phone itself, just calls after 10. 4 years ago, at 10:17 p.m., my father called. My younger sister, Sarah, had been in a car accident. She was 19. I remember standing in the kitchen. I remember the cup on the table. I remember my father was silent for a few seconds before he said my name. Sarah died before I got to the hospital. Since then, if the phone rings late at night, I can't make myself pick it up for the first few seconds. Logically, I know it's stupid. The phone isn't to blame. 10 o'clock isn't either. But my body remembers things differently than my head does. There. Now you know something about me that Mrs. Bennet doesn't, and if I ever meet her cats, they won't know either. Now I want to go back to what you wrote about your mother. I read that paragraph several times. I don't know what the right response is. Maybe nothing? But try writing down what you still remember, not just the big things. What words she used often, how she laughed, what she said when she was angry. Maybe the voice is fading, but sometimes people stay in our habits. Sarah always ate the edge of the pie first. I thought it was disgusting my whole life. Now sometimes I do it too. I don't know why. I guess it's my way of not letting her disappear completely. And now, Daniel, I'm going to ask that question anyway. You knew I would eventually. I'm not asking for details. I'm not asking you to justify yourself. I just need one honest answer. Did someone die because of what you did? Yes or no? I think I've earned at least that. Yesterday, I bought 6 apples. They were terrible. If you ever get your hour of freedom, pick something else.
Emily, yes. I read your question so many times I know exactly where the ink pressed a little harder into the paper. Someone died because of what I did. Yes. I could end the letter there. You only asked for one honest answer. But after what you told me about Sarah, one word felt almost insulting. His name was Thomas Reed. He was 29. He had a wife and a 5-year-old son. I know the boy's name, but I won't write it to you. Not because it's a secret. I just already took enough from that family. I don't want to take away their right to stay anonymous in the correspondence of 2 strangers. I didn't mean to kill Thomas. And here's where most people in my position start explaining how it was an accident, how they're not really like that, how circumstances were wrong, how it was alcohol, fear, bad friends, bad day, bad childhood. I have all those explanations too. Some of them are even true. But Thomas didn't wake up from any of them. It happened outside a bar, almost 1 in the morning. We got into an argument. I was drunk, he was too. First words, then he shoved me. I hit him. He hit back. And at some point I did something I couldn't take back. I hit him with a bottle. He fell. I remember the sound of glass. I remember the blood on my hand. I remember someone yelling to call an ambulance. And I remember one thing I've never told anyone. I stood there for about 10 seconds and did nothing. 10 seconds is very little. Try counting. 1, 2, 3, up to 10. But I've been thinking about those 10 seconds for 4 years, because that's when I could have knelt down, could have tried to help, could have done something. Instead, I watched, and then I ran. The police found me the next morning. Thomas died in the hospital. That's why I'm here, at least the part I can write to you now. I got 12 years. When the judge announced the sentence, my mother cried. Thomas's wife didn't. She just looked at me. I still see that look sometimes. You wrote that after 10 at night you're scared of phone calls. Now I think about another phone call, the one his wife got. I don't know what time it was. I wanted to write to her for a long time. Never did, because every word that comes to mind starts with I. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I didn't mean to. I think about him. And someone who did something unforgivable already takes up too much space in the story, so I stay quiet. Now you know. And I need to say one more thing. When I saw your envelope this time, I was happy. And then I read your question, and for the first time I wished you hadn't written back. Because until that moment, I could pretend we were just two people writing to each other about trees, cats, and bad apples. Not anymore. If you don't write back after this, I'll understand. Really. I won't send another letter, won't ask why, won't try to make you respond. And this time I really will destroy the card with your address. But before I finish, thank you for the advice about your mother. Last night I started writing down what I remember. The first thing I wrote, she never said good night. She said, see you in the morning. Even when she was mad, even when we argued. Always, see you in the morning. Funny, I hadn't heard her voice in 2 years, but when I wrote those 3 words, for a few seconds, I did. So thank you for that, Emily. And for Sarah, too. I never knew her, but now, somewhere in a prison, there's a man who knows a girl named Sarah ate the edge of her pie first. I think that means you were right. People really do stay in strange little details. I won't ask you a question this time. It's your turn to decide if there's another letter. If there is, I promise never to recommend apples again.
Daniel, I didn't know what to say back, so I didn't respond. 44 days. You probably counted. I did. Your letter sat on my kitchen table for almost 2 weeks. Then I moved it to the drawer. Next morning, I took it back out, like where the envelope is makes any difference. I was mad at you, then at myself, then at you again. The worst part was, I was the one who asked the question. You could have lied, could have written that you were in for robbery, could have made up a story that would have made it easy for me to keep writing. Instead, you told me, Thomas Reed, 29, a wife, a 5-year-old son. I read it, and suddenly all our conversations about trees, apples, and Mrs. Bennet felt wrong, like I'd let myself forget where your letters come from. And then I thought about Sarah, and that made it even worse, because I know what it means to lose someone close to you because of someone else. The man who hit my sister's car was drunk too. I didn't write that to you. His name was Richard Hale. He survived. Sarah didn't. I hated him. No, that's too soft. For years, I wanted him to suffer. I wanted him to wake up every morning and think of her name first. I wanted him to never have a normal day again. And when you wrote me about Thomas, for a few minutes you became Richard Hale. I put your letter in the drawer and decided I wouldn't answer again. After some time, I took it back out. Because there was one problem. You're not Richard, and Thomas isn't Sarah, and I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if you're a good person, Daniel. Maybe that's a stupid question in general. We like to divide people into good and bad because it's easier. Good people do good things, bad people do bad things. And then someone who took a life writes to you about his mother's voice, and everything gets uncomfortable. I'm not forgiving you for Thomas. I don't even have the right. It's not my forgiveness. And I don't want you to ever read my letters as proof that what happened doesn't matter anymore. It does. It always will. But I realized one more thing. If I stop writing to you just because I now know the worst thing you've done, then it means a person is forever equal to the worst minute of their life. I don't know if I believe that. I guess that's why this letter exists. Now I want to ask you something, and this time it's going to be weird. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and you're 20 years old. You don't know anything about Thomas, don't know about prison, don't know what's going to happen. But the present Daniel can send that 20-year-old kid one note, one sentence, no more. What do you write? I'll answer too. If I could send one sentence to 20-year-old Emily, I'd write, "Don't put off that phone call with Sarah to tomorrow." On the day of the accident, she called me. I was in a hurry to get to work, said I'd call her back in the evening. I didn't. For a long time, I thought that was the last thing between us. I'll call you back. But lately, I think differently. Maybe the last thing isn't the last words. Maybe it's everything that came before them. I don't know. You've made me think too much these last 44 days. It's a little annoying. And one more thing. Don't destroy the card. At least not yet. Mrs. Bennet has asked about you 3 times now. I told her you read a lot and have terrible taste in apples. That's enough for her now.
Emily, don't go to that bar that night. That would be my sentence. Your letter came on Thursday. I read it once, then twice. On the 3rd time, I realized I wasn't really reading the words anymore, just thinking about the fact that you'd written it all. 44 days. Yes, I counted. First 2 weeks I waited, then I stopped, then I started convincing myself it was better this way. Turns out I'm a very convincing liar when the only person I need to fool is myself. You wrote one thing I can't get out of my head, that a person shouldn't be forever equal to the worst minute of their life. I don't know if that's true. I'd like to say I do, but there are a lot of men here who try to prove that to themselves every day, and a lot who've stopped trying. I'm somewhere in the middle. Some mornings I wake up as Daniel Mercer, and some mornings I wake up as the man who killed Thomas Reed. They're not the same person, even though they live in the same body. Now I have to tell you something about that night, because I lied. Not about Thomas, not about the bottle, not about running. All that's true. I lied about one other thing. I wrote that we were both drunk. Thomas wasn't. I was. He came out of the bar because I had started to fight with another man. Thomas didn't know me. He was just trying to break it up. I told him to stay out of it. He didn't back off. I shoved him. He grabbed my jacket, and then what I already wrote happened. I don't know why I added that he was drunk too. I guess because 2 drunk guys fighting outside a bar sounds different, a little easier, like Thomas also took a few steps toward what happened. But he didn't. I took those steps. You asked for honesty, and I gave you almost all of it. Turns out, almost is a very convenient word. I could have not written this. You might never have known. But after your letter, I realized one unpleasant thing. If you keep writing to me, you have the right to know who you're writing to. Not my best version, not the one I can neatly fold into an envelope. Me. So, there it is. Another piece I don't like. Now, about Sarah. You wrote that the last thing between you was, "I'll call you back." I think you're right. That wasn't your last words. That was just the last sentence. There's a difference. The last thing between you was 19 years. Pies she ate wrong. Fights. Dumb jokes. Things only the two of you knew. One unfinished phone call can't take away everything that came before it. At least, I really want to believe that. Because then maybe my mother remembered me as more than just a man in handcuffs in a courtroom. Maybe somewhere before that, her son was still there. You see what you're doing. First, you made me miss a grocery store. Now you're making me do philosophy. A few more letters and I'll start writing poetry. That's when you should definitely stop responding. It's raining here today. I know because I was not outside. I can hear the water hitting the metal windowsill. In your first letter, you described snow. I guess it's gone by now. I wonder what your maple tree looks like in spring. Strange. I've never seen that tree, but I already want to know when the first leaves appear on it. Maybe that's how you start missing things you've never seen. And I have a new question. Simpler than the last one. At least it seems simpler. When was the last time you were genuinely happy? Not everything was fine, not nothing bad happened. Actually happy. I tried to answer myself. I haven't been able to yet. Maybe when I read your answer, I'll remember mine. Tell Mrs. Bennet I categorically deny the Apple allegations. I've done 4 years, but even I have rights.
Daniel, I knew you were holding something back. Didn't know what, and I really wanted to be wrong. When I read that Thomas wasn't drunk, I put the letter down. This time only for an hour. I guess that's progress. I was angry, but not about Thomas. Well, not only about him. I was angry because you decided for me what part of the truth I could handle. Don't do that again. If we're going to keep up this weird correspondence, I have one condition. Don't try to be the person you think I want to write to. Be who you are. I'll decide for myself if I want to keep writing to that person. Deal? Now, about your question. When was the last time I was genuinely happy? At first I wanted to write before Sarah died, but that would have been a lie. There were good days after her too. I'm somehow embarrassed to admit that. Like, happiness after someone dies is a tiny betrayal. Like if one morning you wake up, have coffee, hear something funny on the radio, and forget to be sad for a few minutes. It means you didn't love enough. Stupid, right? But you asked for honesty, so here it is. Last summer, I went to a lake by myself. I didn't tell anyone. Took an old blanket, a book, 2 sandwiches, and drove about 40 miles out of town. It was really hot. I read for about 20 minutes, then fell asleep. When I woke up, the sun was already lower, almost no one around, the water completely still, and suddenly I realized I felt good. Not better, not today isn't so bad, just good. I lay there looking at the sky, wasn't waiting for anyone, wasn't in a hurry, wasn't scared of anything. I guess that was the last time. Although, no, there's one more, and I'm not sure I should write this. Last Thursday, I came home from work and saw an envelope, yours. I recognized the handwriting before I even read the name, and I felt happy, just happy. Then I read the letter and got angry, so don't be too proud of yourself. But the first few seconds were good. There, now you can be insufferable for a whole week. By the way, our maple tree already has leaves. They're still small, light green. This morning there was a strong wind and the branches were hitting the window. I thought you'd like that sound. And then I thought how strange my life has become. I stand in the kitchen wondering if a man in prison would like the sound of my tree. 6 months ago, I didn't know you existed. Now, sometimes during the day, something small happens, and in my head I think, I should tell Daniel about this. That scares me a little. Not you, just that habit. Sarah was the last person I told stupid things to just because I wanted her to know them. After she died, I stopped doing that, and now I've started again, with someone I've never seen. So I want to change something. You know what my window looks like. You know about the maple tree. You know about Sarah. You even know about Mrs. Bennet. But you don't know what I look like, and I don't know what you look like. Don't worry, I'm not sending a photo yet. I want to test something first. Describe yourself, honestly, and in the next letter, I'll describe myself. Then maybe we'll exchange photos and see how much we both lied. And one more thing. You asked when I was happy. Now I'm asking you the same thing. Don't dodge it. You've had enough time to think. I told Mrs. Bennet your statement about your rights. She said, ask him if he has a lawyer. I'm starting to suspect she looks forward to your letters as much as I do.
Emily. Deal. No more almost truths. If I don't want to answer something, I'll just say so. But I won't make up easier versions anymore. You were right to be angry. Now to the more serious accusation. You wrote that I could be insufferable for a whole week because you were happy to get my letter. Emily, it's been 9 days. I'm still insufferable. Even a guard asked why I was walking around with such a pleased look on my face. I said I couldn't share details. Now he probably thinks I'm planning an escape. But I have to admit something too. I recognize your envelopes, not the handwriting. Them. You fold the top right corner slightly when you seal them. I don't know why. Maybe you don't even notice. Last time the mail was put on a table a few feet from me. I hadn't seen the name yet. I saw that corner, and I already knew. So as far as weird habits go, I guess we're even. You asked for me to describe myself. All right. Height, 6'1", dark hair, at least it was dark before a few grays started appearing here, which I blame entirely on the state. Eyes brown, nose broken twice, first time at 17, second time, here, it didn't get better looking. Small scar on my chin. Left ear sticks out a little more than the right. My mother said no one notices that. She was lying. I weigh less now than before prison, and I look older than 31. That's probably it. Actually, no. You asked for honest. I almost never smile in photos. Not because I'm mysterious. I just have a terrible smile when someone says, smile. It looks like the face of someone who just hit a body. Given my biography, the jokes kind of write themselves. Now you. And don't write brown hair, such and such eyes, average. After 6 months of letters, I'm not accepting average. You asked for another answer. When was the last time I was genuinely happy? I remembered. I was 24. My mother was still living in the old house. It was Sunday. I came to help her fix the porch. It was supposed to take 2 hours. It took all day because I didn't know what I was doing and she knew even less but kept giving advice. Around 7 in the evening, we gave up. The porch stayed crooked. We bought Chinese food and sat on the steps. It started to rain. Not heavy, the kind normal people go inside for. My mother said, "Don't move, we spent all day fixing this damn porch. I want to sit on it at least once." So we sat in the rain and ate noodles from boxes. That's my answer. I wasn't thinking about money, wasn't thinking about where I was going tomorrow, wasn't angry, wasn't drunk, wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I was just sitting next to my mother on poorly repaired steps. 2 years later, I killed Thomas. Another 2, and I ended up here. But that evening, none of that existed yet. And you know the strangest thing? If you'd asked me then if I was happy, I probably would have said, yeah, I guess. People are terrible at knowing when they're okay. Usually it only becomes obvious later. Your lake sounds about the same. Blanket, 2 sandwiches, book, nothing special, and then a year later it turns out that was one of those days. Emily. You wrote one more thing, that during the day you sometimes think, I should tell Daniel about this. I didn't know whether to respond to that, but since we agreed on honesty, I do the same. A few days ago in the cafeteria, A man across from me dropped his spoon into his soup. Completely. It disappeared. He sat there for a minute staring into the bowl like life had finally beaten him. I laughed, and the first thought was, Emily would have liked that. I don't even know if you would have found it funny, but that's what I thought. And here's my problem. I don't know what we're doing. At first, it was one random letter, then another. Now I know your sister's name. You know my mother's name. I know when you're scared of phone calls. You know when I was happy. And I recognize your envelopes from a few feet away. I don't know what to call this. Maybe it doesn't need a name. Not yet. So let's just keep going. And I'll ask you a very small question this time. What color is your hair, Emily? Let's start there. Tell Mrs. Bennet I did have a lawyer, but I might need another one soon.
Daniel. Red. My hair is red. Not slightly brown, not reddish in the sun. Red. As a kid, I hated it. Sarah called me a carrot until I threw an actual carrot at her. My mother punished us both. Sarah for teasing me for good aim. Now I like my hair. It's about shoulder length. When it's humid outside, it does whatever it wants, regardless of my plans. Eyes green, height 5'6", small mole on my left cheek, front tooth slightly crooked. Sarah said that was the only thing keeping me from being insufferably self-confident. I guess she was right. I don't like being photographed either, but for a different reason. In photos, I always look like I know I'm being photographed. I realize how stupid that sounds. You asked me not to write average, so I won't. I'm not average. Happy? Now I have a complaint. Because of you, I now consciously fold the top right corner of my envelopes. Before your letter, I didn't even know I did it. Today, I sealed an envelope, looked at the corner, and thought, he'll look for that. So I folded it extra hard. I hate that you notice things like that. And I hate even more that I like it. About the man with the spoon? Yes, I laughed. Loudly. In my kitchen. Alone. Mrs. Bennet had nothing to do with it this time. Now about the part of your letter I reread the most. You wrote, I don't know what we're doing. Me neither, and at first I wanted to just skip that sentence. I don't know what we're doing. Me neither, and at first I wanted to just skip that sentence. Write about hair, the maple tree, work, the weather, and pretend I hadn't noticed. But we made a deal. No, almost. So I'll say it. I wait for your letters. Not just reply, wait. When I come home from work, I check the mailbox. If I see an envelope, my heart beats a little faster. I'm 30, I'm an adult woman, and I'm embarrassed to write that sentence to a man I've never seen, but there it is. And that's not even the worst part. Last Sunday, I went to see my father. He lives about an hour away. We had dinner, and he asked, "Is there someone new in your life?" I almost choked on my potatoes, said no. He looked at me the way fathers look when they know you're lying but decide not to push it. And on the way home, I thought, did I lie? There's no one. I don't know you outside of paper. Don't know how you walk, how your voice sounds, how you act when you're angry, whether you interrupt people, whether you snore, whether you dance terribly. I don't even know if you're really 6'1". Maybe you're 5'3" and running an extremely long con. But if there's no one, then why couldn't I just say that to my father? Don't answer that. I don't know yet myself. And one more thing. You wrote about a photo. Well, actually, I was the one who suggested photos. Now I regret it. Not because I don't want to see you. The opposite. That's exactly why. Funny thing, as long as someone only exists in letters, they kind of live in your head. I already have some version of Daniel. I can't see a clear face, but he's there. And I'm scared to open an envelope and suddenly meet a completely different person. Is that stupid? Maybe. But I did it anyway. There's a photo in this envelope. It's about 7 months old, taken last fall at my father's birthday. I'm standing by his house, wearing a dark sweater, hair pulled back. I didn't know I was being photographed, so this time I look normal. At least I hope so. Now it's your turn. Not necessarily right away, but if you send a photo, don't look for the best one. Send a real one. I want to see the person who writes these letters, not who they were 5 years ago. Mrs. Bennet saw me walking to the mailbox with your letter. She asked, "Is that for him?" I said yes. She smiled. I'm starting to hate her. I folded the corner, on purpose.
Emily, I got your photo. I wanted to start smarter. Didn't work. I got your photo, and for about a minute I just looked at it. Then I turned it over, like there was supposed to be an explanation on the back. Then I turned it back. Red. You weren't exaggerating. And now I understand the carrot story. Sarah deserved it. Don't tell anyone that a man convicted of murder officially supports vegetable violence. My reputation is already complicated. You're not at all what I imagined, and at the same time, exactly that. I don't know how to explain it. I thought you'd look more serious. In the photo, you're laughing, not smiling for the camera, actually laughing. Someone must have said something a second before the picture was taken. I tried to guess what a few times. And yes, I noticed the crooked tooth. Don't worry, it's in the right place. And the mole, too. Now something happened I wasn't ready for. Before the photo, you were handwriting. An envelope with a folded corner. A voice I'd never heard. A maple tree. Bad apples. Sarah. Mrs. Bennet. A lake 40 miles out of town. And now all of that has a face, and it changed more than I expected. I put the photo in a book. 10 minutes later, I took it out, then put it back. Not because I didn't want to look, exactly because I did. Almost nothing here belongs to just you. The room isn't yours, the bed isn't yours, the clothes aren't really yours. Time definitely isn't yours. Even a letter can be checked before it reaches your hands. But your photo suddenly felt like something that was mine. I didn't like that word, mine. You don't owe me anything, and you definitely don't belong to me. So I'll say it differently. It felt like something you trusted specifically to me. That's different. I understand that. Now my turn. There's a photo in this envelope, too, taken 3 weeks ago. And before you say anything, yes, they allow photos here at certain times. I almost didn't send it. Twice. Not because I'm embarrassed about my nose. I've gotten used to it. I was scared of something else. You'll see the clothes, the walls. You'll see where I actually am. While we've been writing, prison was just a word at the beginning of my address. Now it'll be in the photo. I couldn't choose the background, couldn't wear something else, couldn't go outside and stand by a tree. So you asked for the real Daniel. Here he is, 31, 6'1". You can check after I get out if the state hasn't stolen a few inches. Dark hair, broken nose, an ear that really does stick out, and the face of a man who tried very hard not to look like he just hit a body. Didn't work. Now, about your father. You asked if you lied to him when you said there was no one. I don't know either, but your question made me think about the same thing from the other side. If someone asked me, is there someone? What would I say? I thought about it for a few days. The right answer is no. I don't have a girlfriend, don't have a relationship, don't even have the right to ask you for anything like that. But the word no also sounds wrong, because there's a woman a few hundred miles away, red hair, crooked front tooth, folds the corner of her envelope, scared of phone calls after 10, sometimes drives to a lake by herself. And I know that when they hand out mail today, I'll still look to see if her handwriting is there. So what is this? I don't know. Maybe we really don't need to name it yet. But I'll tell you one thing I can no longer call a coincidence. I'm not writing to you because I found your address anymore. I'm writing to you because it's you. There, now you can put the letter down for 44 days to punish me for that sentence. Just don't, please. And this time I don't have a complicated question, just a simple one. When you open the envelope and see the photo, write the first thing you thought. Not pretty, not right, first. I can handle it, probably. I'll return your photo if you ask, but I really hope you don't. Tell Mrs. Bennet that now I know what you look like, too. Actually, don't tell her. She already knows too much.
Daniel, first thought? Okay, you asked for it. He looks tired. Not scary, not dangerous. Not how I imagined a man who spent 4 years in prison. Tired. And the second thought was, there he is. And the second one scared me more. I turned the photo over, too. Now we're even. I don't know what I expected to find on the back. Maybe, yes, Emily, it's really me. You didn't lie about the nose, or the ear. Your mother definitely lied to you out of love. You can see it. Not enough that I'd recommend surgery, but you can see it. And you lied about one more thing. You wrote that you look older than 31. I don't think so. You just look like someone who hasn't slept well in a long time. I put the photo next to your first letter, the very first one. Yes, I still have it. I have all your letters. I tied them with a ribbon. Don't make this romantic. The ribbon was the only thing I had in the drawer. It's yellow, too. Hideous color. Although, fine, maybe it's a little romantic. Happy? Now I'll say something harder to write than describing Sarah. I don't know what's happening between us, but I know it's no longer just correspondence, at least for me. When you wrote, "I'm writing to you because it's you," I read that sentence 4 times. Then I went to put the kettle on, then I came back and read it again. I hate you for that. Not literally, obviously. God, see what you've done to me? I'm explaining to a man in prison that I don't hate him after I wrote him a letter myself. Very dignified life. But there's a problem, Daniel, and I think we need to name it before we pretend it doesn't exist. You're in prison, I'm not. You only know me from what I choose to put in an envelope, and I only know you the same way. Letters make us better conversationalists than we maybe really are. Here you can think before answering, cross out a stupid sentence, rewrite a page, hide a bad day. In real life, that's not how it works. Sometimes people don't fall silent beautifully. Sometimes they say stupid things. Sometimes they annoy you. Sometimes they don't know what to say. I'm scared we might fall in love with the letters, not the people. There, I wrote that word, fall in love. I don't know if it's about us yet, maybe not, but if I'm thinking about it, it's already standing somewhere nearby. And that's exactly why I want to do one thing. I checked the rules 3 times. Then I called and asked again because I didn't believe the woman who answered the first time. Visitors are allowed on Saturdays. I can apply. If they approve me, I can come. Not tomorrow, not next week. I'm not ready yet, and maybe you aren't either. But I want to know if I come one day, will you come out to see me? Not as Daniel from the letters, not as who you want to seem, just you. I'm not promising I'll come, not yet. I'm just asking if you want that possibility to exist. And before you answer, think, because I've already figured out one of your bad habits. You sometimes write braver than you probably speak. Maybe I do too. I won't ask for the photo back. Keep yours too. Mrs. Bennet saw your photo. It happened by accident, almost. She looked at it for about 5 seconds and said, "His eyes are sad." Then she asked, "When you get out?" I didn't know what to say, and suddenly I realized I'd never asked you that myself. So here's another question. When do you get out, Daniel?
Emily. Yes, if you come, I'll come out to see you. I started writing a long answer, then I crossed it out. This question doesn't need 2 pages. Yes, I want to see you. And now that I've written that, my hands are shaking more than on the day the sentence was read. That's annoying. About the second question, when do I get out? If nothing changes, August 14th, 1986, 7 years, 1 month, and 28 days from the date I'm writing this. I know the exact number. Of course I do. Everyone here does. Some count years, some months. Some stop counting altogether. I count mornings. Not all, just the bad ones. I don't know why. Possible parole earlier, but I've learned not to build my life around the word maybe. 7 years. I wrote it, and now I see it the way you probably do. That's a long time. In 7 years, people get married, divorce, move, change jobs, have kids, parents die, hair goes gray. Trees grow. In 7 years, your maple tree will be different, and you will too. So I need to tell you something now, not after 10 more letters, not after you visit, now. Don't wait for me. I'm not writing this to push you away, and definitely not because I don't want your letters. I do, more than I should. That's exactly why I'm writing this. I don't have the right to turn 7 years of your life into a hallway outside my cell door. If in a month you meet a man who asks you to dinner, go. If in a year you fall in love, fall in love. If one day you stop thinking about my letters, don't feel guilty. I'm serious. Will it hurt? Yes, that's also true without the almost, but the pain doesn't give me the right to own your time. You wrote something that got to me, that we might fall in love with the letters, not the people. I've thought about that too. It's very easy to make someone perfect here, especially someone on the outside. I can imagine your voice, how you laugh, how you get angry, how you push your hair out of your face, and then one day see you and realize you're not that person at all. You can do the same with me, only you have another danger. You can make me better than I am. Because you know my thoughts, but you haven't seen my bad days, haven't seen me angry, haven't seen me shut down and not talk to anyone, haven't seen the things I don't like about myself. Letters give me time to be smarter. In life, there is no such time. So, come, not to promise anything, not to decide our future. Come to check if the Daniel you write to actually exists. I want to check if Emily exists too, even though the photo has seriously made it harder for me to pretend you're imaginary. Now something funny. After your letter, I spent about an hour thinking about our first meeting, and you know what scared me? Not that you might look at me and regret coming, not that there would be glass between us, not the guards. I suddenly realized I don't know what to say to you. In a letter, it's simple. Emily, and the words just come. But there you'll be sitting across from me, real, and I won't be able to cross out a sentence. So I have a request. If you do come, and for the first few minutes I sit there like an idiot, say something about apples. Anything. I'll understand. And one more thing. Mrs. Bennet said my eyes look sad. Tell her she saw one photo and already made a diagnosis. Dangerous woman. But you can tell her one more thing. Today they're not sad. I wrote, "Don't wait for me." Don't confuse that with "don't write to me," please. They're very different things.
Daniel, I won't wait for you. At least not the way you imagined. I won't sit by the window for 7 years. Won't buy a calendar and start crossing out days until August 14, 1986. Won't put my life on hold. Is that what you were scared of? Good. Then you can stop worrying. But you need to understand something too. Don't decide for me how much space you can take up in my life. You already decided once how much truth I could handle. We remember how that ended. So if one day I decide 7 years is too long, I'll tell you myself. If I meet someone, I'll tell you. If I want to stop writing, I'll tell you. But for now, I want to keep writing. To you. Not to a man I feel sorry for. Not to a prisoner who needs saving. To you. Now, about the visit, I applied. Yes, you can read that again. I already have. 3 times. Yesterday, I handed in the paperwork. The woman at the desk asked, "What is your relationship to Mr. Mercer?" I opened my mouth and realized I didn't know the answer. Friend? Acquaintance? A person who accidentally found my address in an old magazine and now knows more about me than most people in my life? The last option seemed a bit long, so I said, "Friend." She wrote it down, and suddenly that word became real. Friend. Maybe not enough, maybe too much. For now, it'll do. They said the response might take a few weeks. If I get approved, I'll come. Not maybe, not I'll think about it, I'll come. Now I'm nervous too, thanks. Before your first letter, I had a perfectly calm life. Work, books, the maple tree, Mrs. Bennet and her illegal cat empire, and now I'm voluntarily filling out paperwork to drive a few hundred miles and sit across from a convicted man I argue with about apples. If this ends badly, I'm putting all the blame on that damn card. About the first meeting, I thought about what to say too. I had about 20 versions in my head, all terrible. "Hi, Daniel." Too simple. Finally, too dramatic. You're shorter than I thought. Risky, considering you're 6'1". So here's the deal. If we're both sitting there in silence, I'll say, "The apples were terrible anyway." And you'll say something back. Anything, even if it's just, "Hi, Emily." That'll be enough. One more thing. Your "today they're not sad," that was unfair. Not in a lying way, in another way. You knew perfectly well I'd read that sentence again, and I did, 5 times. So now it's my turn. Today, after work, I sat on the porch. It was warm. Mrs. Bennet was arguing with one of her hated cats. Somewhere nearby, a radio was playing, and I was thinking about a man I might soon see for the first time. I was smiling, alone, like an idiot. There, now live with that until the next letter. I didn't tell Mrs. Bennet I applied. If I tell her, she'll start picking out a dress for me. I have limits. If I get approved, I'll send you the date. And yes, I remember our deal. No pretty versions. When we meet, don't try to be Daniel from the letters. I want to see the one who doesn't have time to rewrite sentences.
Emily, you wrote, "I applied." I read it, then again. Then I put the letter on the table and stared at the wall for about 5 minutes. The guy in the next cell asked if I was okay. I said, "A woman wants to come see me." He said, "I'm sorry. They have a specific attitude toward romance here." And then I realized something much scarier. You're actually coming. Until now, you existed in a safe place, on paper. I could read your letter slowly, stop, think, go back a page, and now one day the door will open and you'll be there. No envelope. I like that thought, and it scares me at the same time. About you calling me a friend, I looked at that word for about 10 minutes. Friend. I don't know if it's enough or too much, but I like it, because it's real. I don't want to make up a word for us that we haven't earned yet, and I don't want to pretend there's nothing between us. So let it be friend for now, although I've never waited for letters from any friend the way I wait for yours. Now, I need to tell you something unpleasant. Not about Thomas, about me. You asked to see the person who doesn't have time to rewrite sentences. You should know that person won't always be someone you like. When I'm nervous, I joke. When I'm scared, I can get sharp. When I'm embarrassed, I sometimes act like I don't care. Very convenient set of qualities if you want to ruin almost any relationship. I spent many years doing exactly that. My mother once said, "Daniel, you always close the door first so no one can close it on you." I told her she read too many cheap novels. Now I'm sitting in prison writing a woman about my feelings. My mother would have loved that irony. So if we meet and I suddenly seem colder than in my letters, don't immediately think I'm not glad to see you. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe I just won't know what to do with how glad I am. There, that's the most embarrassingly honest paragraph I've written in 4 years. I hope you're satisfied. Now, seriously, you wrote you won't wait for me. Good, I'm glad. But I'm even more glad about something else. You didn't write that you'll leave. There's a huge difference between those two things. I'm starting to understand that. Today I was in the library, the same one, found that magazine. I don't know why I looked for it. I guess I wanted to see if it was still there. It was. I picked it up and opened it to about the place where I found your card. And for the first time I thought, what if I'd opened a different magazine that day? What if the card had fallen out earlier? What if someone else had found it? What if I'd actually thrown it away like I planned? I don't really believe in fate, Emily, especially after everything that's happened. It's too easy to call fate the things we're actually responsible for. But sometimes I think about that card, a piece of paper, and how right now, a few hundred miles away, a woman with red hair is filling out paperwork to come see me. The world is strange, sometimes very cruel, sometimes just strange. Now I'll wait for your next letter. And this time, for the first time, I'm not just waiting for words, I'm waiting for a date. That's much scarier. If you say, "The apples were terrible anyway," I already know what I'll say back. But I won't say it now. For once in this story, I get to have a secret too. And don't wear a dress because of me. Come as you were when you bought those 6 terrible apples. I think that's the Emily I want to meet.
Daniel. August 18th, Saturday, 2 in the afternoon. I got approved. I got the notice yesterday, but didn't write right away. Wanted to make sure I wouldn't change my mind. I didn't. So, August 18th at 2 o'clock, I'll be there. Now you can stare at the wall longer than 5 minutes. I allow it. I already bought a ticket. Thought about driving, but a few hours behind the wheel before our first meeting seemed like a bad idea. I'll already come up with about 300 reasons to turn around and go home. At least on a train, it's harder to turn around. I didn't tell anyone where I'm going. Told my father I want to spend the weekend alone. Technically, that's a lie. Mrs. Bennet doesn't know either. That's practically an achievement. Now I want to say something while there's still paper between us, because I don't know if I'll be able to say it when I see you. I'm scared. Not of you. At least I don't think so. I'm scared of the moment when a person I've known for 9 months suddenly becomes real. You'll have a voice, movements. You'll look at me while I talk. Maybe you laugh completely differently than I imagine. Maybe you have some unbearable habit of touching your nose constantly. Maybe I won't like you. Or worse, maybe I'll like you even more. The last option is somehow the scariest. Because while you're here, in the letters, I can put them away, tie them with my hideous yellow ribbon, and put them in a drawer. After August 18th, I'll know how you say my name. You can't put that in a drawer. I thought a lot about your "don't wait for me," and I realized we're both talking about 7 years, like we already have to decide our whole lives. We don't. I don't need to know today where I'll be in 1986. Neither do you. We just need to get to August 18th, and then we'll see. One day at a time, one letter at a time. I think that's how we got here in the first place. And one more thing. You wrote that your mother said you close the door first so no one can close it on you. I remembered. So on August 18th, don't do that. If you get scared, let yourself be scared. I'll be scared too. But don't decide for me that I've just seen the real you and want to leave. Let me decide for myself. Deal? And I promise something too. I'm not coming to save you. Not coming to forgive you for Thomas. Not coming to decide if you're a good person or bad. I just want to meet a man who found my address in an old magazine one day and for some reason decided to write. That's all. For a first meeting, that's enough. By the way, I already know what I'm wearing. Not a dress, jeans, a light shirt, and maybe a dark sweater if it's cool. So Mrs. Bennet was deprived of the opportunity to manage my wardrobe. That's our small victory. Daniel, in 25 days we'll see each other. I wrote that sentence and stared at it for a minute. 25 days. Strange. For 9 months you were someone I waited for in my mailbox. Now I'm the one coming to you. The apples were terrible anyway. You can prepare your answer. And one more thing, don't cut your hair specially before I come. I don't know why I even thought to write that, but it's too late to cross out now.
Emily. 16 days. Yes, I'm counting. You wrote that I just need to get to August 18. Turns out it's harder than it sounds. Before, days here were all the same. Monday could be Thursday. July could be March. Without a calendar, it's sometimes hard to tell how much time has passed. Now every morning has a number. Today, 16. Tomorrow, 15. It's both wonderful and unbearable. I've imagined you walking in 3 times already. In the first version, I act normal. We say hi, sit, talk. In the second, I forget every word of English. In the third, you look at me for about 5 seconds, realize you've made a huge mistake, and ask to be taken back to the station. The third version is somehow the most convincing. But I remember your condition. Don't close the door first. Deal. I'll try. And no, I won't cut my hair specially. Although after your letter, for the first time in 4 years, I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, maybe I should. You have a terrible influence on me. Now I need to write something less funny. A few days ago, the block supervisor called me in, said they received confirmation of your visit. Your name was printed on paper, Emily Carter. I've seen it hundreds of times, on every one of your letters, but there it looked different, official, like the state finally acknowledged you exist too. He asked, "Who is she to you?" I said, "Friend." Same word you used. He nodded. That was it. For him, it lasted about 5 seconds. I spent half the day thinking about that word. Emily, I don't know if it's still the right one. Not because friendship isn't enough, but because when I think about you, I don't think the way I think about friends. I tried not to write this until we met. Wanted to see you, make sure, give reality a chance to ruin what we built on paper. Maybe that would have been smarter. But we agreed on honesty, so here it is. I think about you in the morning. Not every morning, but often. When the mail comes, I look for your envelope. When something funny happens, I want to tell you. When something bad happens, same. I know your arrival date better than my own birthday. And last night, I caught myself thinking not about whether you'll come, but about how hard it'll be to watch you leave. We haven't even met yet, and I'm already thinking about the end of the meeting. My mother was right about the doors, so I stopped myself. August 18, you'll come. That's all that exists right now. Not 1986, not 7 years, not what will be between us. August 18, 2 o'clock, you, me, and apparently apples. By the way, you've used the phrase, "the apples were terrible anyway," twice now, so I'll break my promise and give my answer now. When you say it to me in person, I'll answer, "But because of them, you wrote back the second time, so I still win, even if the apples lost." One more thing. I don't know if they'll let us touch each other. Rules depend on how the visit goes. Maybe there'll be a table between us, maybe glass. Maybe they'll allow a brief hug. I don't know. And it's strange how much this question matters to me. Not for anything big, I just thought, if they let us, I'd like to hold your hand. Once, for a few seconds, to understand you're not paper, not a photo, not handwriting. Real. But I won't do it if you don't want to. Won't even ask there. So I'm asking now while there are safe hundreds of miles and an envelope between us. If it's allowed. Can I? 16 days. You don't have to answer the last question if it scares you, but then our deal on honesty gets very awkward, doesn't it?
Daniel? Yes. There. Now it's your turn to stare at one word for 10 minutes. If they allow it, and if at that moment we both still want it, you can hold my hand. I want to know what your hands are like too. That sounded weirder in my head than it does written. Whatever, I'm leaving it in. We agreed not to rewrite ourselves to perfection. 6 days until we meet, and it looks like this is the last letter I'll manage to send you. Strange feeling. For 9 months, there was always paper between us. You wrote, the letter traveled to me, I opened the envelope, read, answered, then waited. Another envelope, your handwriting again. Step by step, we got to the point where the next reply won't make it back to me before August 18. So this time, I won't ask you a question, for the first time, because you'll have to answer it in person. And that thought makes me a little uneasy. Today at the library, a man returned a book and spent 5 minutes explaining why he was almost a month late. I nodded, smiled, and in my head was, 6 days. Then I had lunch. 6 days. I saw apples in a store. Didn't buy any. I have limits too. Daniel, I want to ask you one thing before we meet. Don't tell me there that I can leave. I know, I'm an adult woman. I'll drive a few hundred miles voluntarily, go through security voluntarily, and walk into that room voluntarily. If I want to leave, I'll leave. So don't waste our first minute giving me permission to escape. That would be your closing the door first. I've learned to see you a little, even through paper. You wrote you don't know if friend is the right word. I don't either, and now I think it's good we never came up with something else. Maybe some things are better named only after you've looked someone in the eyes. So until Saturday, we're just Daniel and Emily. That's enough. I told my father, not everything, but enough. Said I've been corresponding with someone for a few months. He asked, with who? I said, with a man. He looked at me. I added, he's in prison. You should have seen his face. Maybe one day I'll learn to deliver news gradually. He asked what you did. I told the truth. After that, he was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, do you trust him? And I didn't answer right away, not because the answer is no, just because the word trust is big. I know you already told me not all the truth once. I know people can write very beautifully. I know that in 9 months you can fall in love with a version of a person that only exists between Dear Emily and the signature at the bottom of the page. In the end, I told my father, I trust that he's trying not to lie to me anymore. My father replied, that's not the same thing. I said, I know. He asked me to call when I got home. I promised. And I think it was after that conversation that I finally understood I'm going, not to the letters, not to the photo, not to the man I made up over 9 months, to you, the real one. I don't know if I'll like that person as much as the one who writes to me, and you don't know that about me. Maybe that's honest. About your hand, I thought about it a lot after your letter. At first it seemed like a small thing. People touch each other all the time, say hello, hand over money, push each other on buses. But we've known each other for 9 months and never been closer than the distance between 2 cities, so a few seconds might turn out to not be a small thing at all. If they allow it, don't rush. First, just say, hi, Emily. I'll say, the apples were terrible anyway. You'll obviously say your stupid pre-planned answer, and we'll both know we survived the first 10 seconds. And after that, for the first time in 9 months, I don't know what happens next. And I guess that's exactly how it should be. Today I gathered all your letters, all of them, from the first to the last. I read the first one again. You don't know me. Remember? That was the first sentence you ever wrote me. I really didn't know you then, and now I know your mother's name, know about Thomas, know you miss grocery stores, know about the crooked porch and Chinese food in the rain, know you joke when you're nervous, know you're scared when people get too close, and I know your left ear really does stick out a little. But maybe the most important thing I'll find out on Saturday, whether I know you at all. So this is the last letter before we meet. Strange to write last, like something's ending, when really maybe everything is just beginning. In 6 days I'll get off the train, come to the prison, say your name, they'll take me inside, and then the door will open, and for the first time there won't be an envelope between us. I don't know what happens after that, but I know I'm coming. See you Saturday, Daniel. I folded the corner, one last time, on purpose. And if when you see me you forget all the words in English, it's okay. Start with 2. Hi, Emily.